Yes, from the 7th to the 11th of December. Yeah,
Oh, I see. Yeah, so share with us some of the information. We might be very interested in that.
sure, definitely.
Yeah. Okay. I guess we could begin. I would, like to introduce our speakers today. Actually, two of them are sitting in here with me in Vietnamese City, and we have Miss Hiền from Hanoi. Again, it's very glad that we could do the Go Global Talk series, and this is our third webinar already. So the original idea is that BSC, Ventures, and IPB, we have realized that we do have the local insights in each market, either in Vietnam or in Singapore, and we have seen that there are a lot of startups that looking to learn more about the international market, especially in Southeast Asia. And due to COVID-19, we cannot travel anywhere. So that's the reason why we have come up with the idea of organizing the Go Global Talk series every month. So each month, we would focus on either international startups or Vietnamese startups. So in this section is for the international startups that want to expand to Vietnam, and we have the Vietnamese speakers that have the experience not only in building and growing the local business, but also have a lot of experience in working with international partners that could potentially give some insight for the international startup to learn more about the Vietnamese market over here. Yeah, that's the overall general introduction. Regarding the theme for this section, the first section we have already been introduced about the potential of the Vietnamese market, how big it is, what are the sectors that are growing, what are the opportunities for international startup if they want to come into the local market over here. In this section, we want to provide the international startup with a map of some of the key players in the ecosystem, so that any startup that would like to approach Vietnamese market would have a better idea of who and how to approach the key players over here. So I'm very happy to introduce our speakers for today. First of all, we have our lady speaker, Miss Từ Thu Hiền from WISE. So Ms. Hiền is a founder and CEO of the Women Initiative for Startup and Entrepreneurs. Ms. Hiền organization has supported a lot of women-based business in Vietnam, and I know that she has been working with a lot of international organizations and funds in order to channel, those international resources into helping the local business. Ms. Hiền has also just recently established a network of angel investors, and she has provided a lot of training for them and also do a lot of investment matching. So potentially the angel investors in Vietnam could be one of the key players the international startup would like to approach. For the second speakers, I would like to introduce Mr. Hope Langstaff. So Mr. Hope has been in Vietnam for a long time. He is leading the program to support the startups in Vietnam by the Swiss government, called the Swiss Entrepreneur Program. Mr. Hope have the experience, he can merge the experience from the Switzerland and Vietnam. So he can provide the international startup with a lot of insights of how an international business could potentially grow here in Vietnam, or he could share some of his insights as a foreigner of living and working in Vietnam. And I'm sure that's important as well for any international startup founder that looking to expand to Vietnam. And our third speaker for today would be Mr. Nguyễn Đức An Sơn. So Mr. Nguyễn Đức An Sơn holds many jobs, I believe, but he's currently the managing partner of Javik Ventures. So Javik Ventures has, some of the strong partners from Vietnam and from Japan as well, and they're looking to invest in early stage startup, and they're looking to grow, these startups, helping these startups to grow. And Mr. An Sơn has currently reviewing some of the international startups that want to expand to Vietnam as well. So he could provide, you know, the startups with some of the insights. And moreover, Mr. Ashton has a lot of experience in international trade. He has been working with, you know, many international partners ranging from US to India to China, and some of the very exciting insights I'm sure that he could share with us as well. Yeah, so those are very brief introduction of our speakers for today. So Michelle, if you would like to share some of, you know, some of your thoughts with us before we can kick off the section.
Thank you so much. It's so nice for you to introduce the speakers and also like the context of our collaboration. So I'm Michelle from Quest Ventures, and we're glad to be participating and collaborating with Isanha. We invest in Southeast Asia and also emerging Asia. So far, we also run accelerators. Over the last 6 months, we've been accelerating around 50 startups and investing in about 30 of them. So that's apart from our venture capital activities. Yeah, we are really glad to be working with An on this, and also bringing Singapore companies into Vietnam as well as a collaboration with Enterprise Singapore, the government of Singapore. Yeah, so without further ado, I'll pass the time back to An.
Okay, thank you, Michelle. Thank you, our speakers, for being with us today. So I think the first section, as usual, lady first, I would like to invite Ms. Hiền to share with us, you know, some of her insights and of course some of the programs that WISE are doing as well. And yeah, so please, Ms. Hiền. Chị Hiền ơi, chị đang mute.
Thank you, Anne. Hello, everybody. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to talk with you today. As Anne already introduced, I'm the founder and CEO of WISE, and WISE stands for Women's Initiative for Startup and Entrepreneurship. So, as you can see in the name of my organization, we focus our work to support women startups and women entrepreneurs in general. Anna, could you please ask me to bring the slide up for me? It will make the connection better than I share my screen only. While waiting for the slides, actually, I'm just keep talking. We are like other partner. We are one of the ecosystem builder in Vietnam. We started we started our operation out the activities since the beginning of the startup ecosystem in Vietnam many years ago, even before WISE was formally established. Since like 2014, 2019, when startup became one of the became more in the spotlight and got more attention and priority from the government and the private sector as such. I was working as the director, country director of the Mekong Business Initiative, which is a private sector support program executed by the Asian Development Bank and funded by Australian government. So the main objective of the Mekong Business Initiative, in short, is MBI, is to support the private sector in general with special focus on building the innovation and startup ecosystem. And by then, while we were working with different actors in the ecosystem and in private sector in general, I saw quite a big gap for women to enter this very new, innovative, and challenging space. There are a lot of gender-related hurdles for women to start a business and grow the business in general. So that's why I formed WISE since 2017, and we focus our support to women. The vision of WISE is to work with women not just in Vietnam, but also in the 4 countries in the Mekong, including Cambodia, Laos, Myanmar, and Vietnam. And that is also the priority countries of the MBI. So what do? We try to create equal opportunities for women, for Vietnamese women to succeed in business. And later on, we have a vision to expand our support and our network to include other women in the Mekong region. Our vision is that we become the go-to organization or the one-stop shop for women who want to start their business and don't know where to start, so they can come to WISE and receive our support, our connection, and we connect them to opportunities that they need to start and succeed in their business. Next please. This is some of the key reasons why we started. I just already mentioned. We see that in terms of evidence and international evidence and data, we see that women startup raise only 2% of venture capital, even they have 35% higher rate of return on investment and 2 times more revenue per dollar invested. So those figures are not always popular to investors in general and to investors in particular and to the ecosystem in general. Women are still facing very unconscious bias when they start a business, especially in the game of raising funds. There are still completely unconscious bias against women and thinking that women may not have as much potential and as much ambitions as men founders in the game of starting up. So that's why the number of capital they raise is much less than their male peers. And what are the key challenges of women? According to a series of surveys that we conducted and many other people and many other international organizations have conducted, the key challenges are still like lack of knowledge and skills, lack of access to finance, limited connections and relationship, and of course spend much more time on housework rather than on their career or on their business. So those are all the key challenges that will prevent women from a very fair competition with their male peers in the startup space. Next please. So what WISE provide? This is what we do. First, we run acceleration and incubation programs to help launch and grow women-led business. We also have access to funding through different streams. Anne has mentioned from the beginning that recently WISE has built a network of local angel investors with gender lens. By saying that, what it means is that we are forming a group of investors that do have understanding about gender issues and have tried to remove their unconscious bias against women, which means that they are willing to make investment in women-led startups. Through our program, we provide training, key trainings for angel investors. Many of them are first-time angel investors. So we provide them with the key skills and knowledge that an angel investor needs to have, and also the gender lens training so they understand the unconscious bias, and therefore they can remove the bias against women founders if they are making decisions on investment. Also, through access to funding, we through our accelerators, we help the female startup, female founders to be investment ready so that they can access to investment funds. We also build a network of impact funds, venture funds, angel investors clubs, and not just in Vietnam, but also internationally. And we provide them with the contacts and introduce them to the pipeline of female-led startups who graduated from our accelerators. And of course, we provide activities including mentoring. It can be an independent mentoring program, or it can be a mentoring as part of the acceleration program that we are running. We provide a lot of training on business in general and some specific entrepreneurship skills to women across the country. And we build up networking opportunities. We provide our networking opportunities for women with women founders, women entrepreneurs, with investors, with partners, with ecosystem builders, with the potential clients, etc. We also conduct several research to identify the challenges for women, to understand the impacts of different programs on them. And also we maintain a community to help women to be motivated, inspired, and balance their work and life. Up to now, we have a wide network of partners. So as I mentioned, not just the local partner, but also international partners, including funds, venture funds, investment funds. In terms of the impacts that we have created, through our accelerators, the female founders graduated from our 2 accelerators recently have gone out and raised $2.5 million onwards. And they continue to succeed in other startup scenes. For example, ABV, that's the one of the startup that graduated from our first accelerator and win the as the top startup in our first accelerator. She had gone on and win the Startup World Cup globally and many other awards. Cricket One, the runner-up from the same accelerators, also competed in different international competition and got a lot of prizes, both on the impact scenes and on the business scene. Most recently, I think that she won in the Blue Venture Awards as the impact-making startups, and she also expanded her market internationally. So that's a very quick overview about what we do. For international startup, what you may want to know about WISE and you want to contact with us, if you are having a plan to come to Vietnam and you have a woman founder in your team, or you want to find a partner, a woman partner to be part of your team and be connected with the gender lens ecosystem builders. So we work a lot with our partners, try also to mainstream the ideas of having a gender lens in all the business decision, on the investment decision with our partners, and to show the importance of working with women, working more with women, and creating an even playing field for women, so that not just them succeed, but also the investors and other partners succeed. We are very happy to support you in many ways if you are planning to come to Vietnam. Let me know if you have any questions on that. Thank you. Thank you, Anne.
Okay,
yeah, thank you.
Right, it's not equal now. Yeah, thank you, Chị Hiền, so much for a great presentation. I didn't know that you are, forming a global network of angel investors. I think that's something very interesting. And later on, during the Q&A section, I would delve in a little bit more into, how you're connecting not just the startup, but also the angel investors around the 4 countries of the Mekong region. For the next speaker, I would like to invite Mr. Hup Lester to share with us the programs and activities of Swiss EP and some insights into the Vietnamese market for the international startups. So please, Mr. Hup Lester.
Hello, everybody. I'm with the Swiss Entrepreneurship Program. Just go quickly through a little background of Swiss EP so you know kind of my perspective. So Swiss EP is a program funded by the Swiss government. And the idea is to build capacity in, sorry, we have slide issues. Among our partners in 7 different countries. It's implemented by a couple consulting companies, one from Switzerland and one from the US. If you know accents, you'll recognize my American accent, despite the Swiss program. Okay, here we go. So Swiss EP, going through everything. We're in 7 countries around the world. We're the only Southeast Asian countries part of the program. A good way of thinking about us is we are here to build the capacity to accelerate the ecosystem inside these 7 countries. Vietnam is, I think, by far the best. Population of almost 100 million, highly educated, growing fast, very little COVID. And so it's been actually a good place to be. And we focus on early stage companies up to scale up, but our partner organizations, who are the accelerators, the incubators, the angel investors of the countries, that's who we target. So BSSC is one of our partners. WISE was one of our first partners, and so we've been working with Hien for longer than WISE has been in existence. One of our key tools, and I'm emphasizing this, it might be an opportunity for some of the people listening, is we like to bring in experts or experienced entrepreneurs into Vietnam, and that will happen at some point again, or even remotely supporting our partner organizations. And we refer to these as entrepreneurs in residence. And so for 4 to 8 weeks, we embed them 50% of the time inside our partner organizations. The idea is to build the capabilities of the local accelerators, the local incubators, by bringing in some international experience. And as I was getting ready for this, a bit of a explanation. So you see Swiss EP, you see I'm from the US. So we have a bit of a Western bias. It's the right way, but that's kind of where my connections are, our connections are. And so Vietnam, on the other hand, there's still a lot of connections to Singapore, to Japan, to Korea that are still there, and we're looking to expand our involvement with people from those. Quick, what we do, think of it, we build capacity for our partners. We don't bring money, we don't invest. And we really aren't just oriented at bringing in companies from outside Vietnam into Vietnam. If anything, it's the opposite. It doesn't, but because what we're doing, we are pretty aware of everything that's going on. And again, this is solicitation of talent out there. So the Entrepreneur in Residence program, we have had a few people come in. Actually, our best entrepreneurs in residence have been those people who wanted to come in and support one of our partners, but also had a sort of parallel interest in establishing relationships or even their companies inside Vietnam. So they have the dual interest, and those have been very effective relationships. And we provide a small stipend for them to come in. And so it's you might say, a low-risk way of evaluating Vietnam, the market, creating your contacts here. Our partners, we have 15 from Hanoi to Da Nang to Saigon, and again, most are mostly focused on early stage acceleration programs, but this is also a good resource. They may be acceleration programs, but they also very much know their local ecosystem. So you heard Hien and Weiss. We were talking to the BSSC people. They're very knowledgeable about what is going on in Saigon. Here's a quick look at some other resources. So I came from outside Vietnam, obviously, and kind of how I got established, connected with people. Vietnam is kind of crazy with all the co-working spaces. The most recent number I saw was 168. And that doesn't include all the active coffee shops, which in many ways are pretty good. There's a lot of co-working spaces that fly under the radar. We have some corporate co-working spaces that are going. I didn't even mention BSSC. We should be on the list. They have their co-working space. Some, I'd say Circo, maybe BSSC, offer additional services to help connect you to the community. Others are more just space. And so if you come into Vietnam, wanting to get established, definitely do your research, get to know the co-working spaces. We got started at Gplex 5 years ago. And so it's a good resource, but check the different ones out before you decide on one. all the accelerators and incubators. They're mainly focused on developing companies in Vietnam, getting them started, accelerated, funded. However, BSSC, Visa, 500 startups also have a bit of an international focus, and they're all starting to bring in more international companies. A great way of getting established, maybe even getting some money as an investment. So, and I don't know the exact number of accelerator incubators, and might have that number at some point. Then there's, I would say, kind of third-party service companies. Here I listed a few. Coplas is more central, kind of Da Nang region. BSSC is here in Saigon. IPP is, I believe, nationwide. Dines is another central Vietnam oriented service company. And then there's the law firms and things. Great resources for getting established in Vietnam and trying to understand the local market and the local market players. That's the last one. Right, sorry. So I think that is what I have for right now. There's still a lot of other resources of the various chambers of commerce. I bring that one up because I know AmCham, so American Chamber of Commerce, is starting to do a lot of work with entrepreneurial ventures. They're getting approached by a lot of companies from around the world as they are getting established in Vietnam. EuroCham, the same. AusCham from Australia. CanCham from Canada. They all, it's an international sort of trend, and so they are great resources if you're trying to get established here. Publications. One of the newest one, BSSC.com. If you're looking at Vietnam, start reading BSSC.com. They have an English language version. VN Express is, has found Saigon Times is more business oriented, and Vietnam is center of Facebook world. So Facebook, a lot of resources out there, as well as tech in Asia, and the big consulting companies. And there you go. So, and the VCs that you have invested in you, if you're a startup that has venture investment, they are also a great resource, obviously. And so, you know, feel free to contact me if you have any questions as you're starting to get established. So, thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Hot Lifestyle. I think your presentation has, you know, give the international startups an overall picture of most of the key players here in Vietnam. And of course, one of the key players we have already got the chance to listen to, that is Wise from Mr. Hien. I think I've got a lot of questions for you, for Ms. Hien, but I'm going to save all that into the Q&A after we listen to our third speaker for today. So Mr. Angshon would share with us, you know, some of the insights into, I think from his point of view, one that has done a lot of international trade, a lot of investment. He will share with us some of the insight into growing what it takes to succeed in Vietnam for international startups. So please, Mr. Angshon.
Thank you, Ms. Ai, for the flattering introduction. And hello, everybody. As Ms. Hien and Ms. Lang already shared with you on the macro perspective and what the player in Vietnam market, I will share more on the my personal perspective of being a serial entrepreneur and also a VC investor. These are the points that I think would be the takeaway point for international startup, because I was one of them in the beginning when I invested in the Vietnam market. I live in Ho Chi Minh City. I work in Singapore. I work in the US. I returned to Vietnam 10 years ago to put up my company. So what does it take to succeed in Vietnam market for international startup? Bear in mind, this is my perspective. You know, some of the points is useful to me, and I would like to share with you. So these are the table of content. Cultural mindfulness, patient is a virtue. These are the point I will explain in the later part. Let local deal with local. Engage industry expert as advisor. Finding the right legal firm. Setting up company properly. These are the points I will go into detail in the next slide. Yeah. So cultural mindfulness, there's a big gap in culture between Ho Chi Minh City and Hanoi. Out of 100% of investors into Vietnam, we estimate that around 42% new registered business are in the southeast area, which is Ho Chi Minh City and the south. Around 14% is in the central and 30% are in the north. Although there has been a lot of support for investor from the central government to invest in the north, but still the majority of investment are flocked into the southern market. Why? So we're gonna have the reason. Cultural mindfulness, Vietnam culture is, I think this is one of the key points when an investor invests in Vietnam. Either you acquire company, you change the culture, you impose your culture, you have to understand how the culture think and how they feel, what's their inside. So these are some of the point, the differentiation between the North and the South. And you see here the North reaction to cold call. If you call them, for sure they will just hang up the phone, and don't be disappointed because it's very normal. The South, they would take your call, they would would answer you a bit before they hang up the phone. But cold call, that's less reluctant. The North is more reluctant. The second point, lost face. The North very important. When they show their face, maybe they would not tell exactly what they think. They want to save face. So you have to be good in psychology a bit. But as an investor, you have to good at reading face, right? As you know, and the North is very important for them. The South, we are more casual. I'm from the South. I'm from the Central South. We are more casual. We would say whatever we think. The North is different. And overselling in the North, well, it could be more reasonable. The South, well, if you go to better market, you have to know how to bargain. And these are the key points. Well, I think Miss Anne will send you the slides later. So I will not go into much detail into this. Patience is a virtue. You have to know that it takes a lot of time to register your company properly, especially for international investor. The legal process would take around 3 months. For international investor, you need to register your investment account. You have to have your document, overseas document, to be notarized by our embassy, and it takes a lot of time. And then you can open the company. You can, I will tell about that later slide. You need to have your ERC, IRC, enterprise registration certificate, investment certificate, and it takes a lot of time. And then, of course, in Vietnam, to do any business, there's a Vietnamese saying that you have to be, first you have to be friends, and then you discuss and you sell, which means you have to make them feel very comfortable about yourself. You would not just go on the first meeting trying to sell something, trying to close the deal. It would not work. You have to make them feel very comfortable, especially in the North. And for B2G business, I think Ms. Anne going to throw me a few questions later on, but I would like to give you some key points here. I have been dealing with a lot of government in the company, and you have to know, to bear in mind that for any company that has 51% controlled by the government, the chairman is appointed by the government, but he's not the decision maker. So the decision maker, sometimes it could be the CEO, sometimes it could be the deputy executive CEO. So you have to work your way, you have to know, take your time to know who is the real decision maker before you bring him to dinners or spend too much time and money on that. And let local deal with local. What do I mean by this? Based on my experience and what's happening in the Vietnam market, there has been a lot of well-established company in Vietnam. You see here the list, Grab, Shopee, La Move. These are companies very successful by using local Vietnamese CEO. Why they become successful? Because I believe that the culture, the language barrier is not there. Although Vietnamese, we speak very fluent English nowadays with the young generation. But of course, if you speak the local language, you talk to them in their language, you know how they feel, their inside is better and you would not have any disruption in giving orders and decision and direction. Engage industry expert as advisor in Vietnam is very important. One of my good advisor, he's the Deputy Minister of Foreign Affairs. He told me, son, in Vietnam, if you need to have good relationship to get things done within the stipulated time frame, which means that in the paper, you can get your ERC, IRC in 50 days, but it would never work. But if you have good relationship, you can get in that time frame and you can be ahead of the competition if you can get this done. So how do you do that? Of course, as foreigner, you try to get in contact with somebody in LinkedIn, introduction through a common friends, joining local program, events, develop network, dinner, lunch, I mean, basic network development. I believe you know all of that. Asking existing client for referral and hiring consultant. I know one of my friends told me they work into renewable energy. They become very successful in hiring EVN, which is the largest energy company belongs to the government. They get advisor from them and they get contract signed very quickly. And then finding the right legal firm. As a startup company, I don't think you guys want to go to the big companies, the big firm, or consulting company, Baker McKinsey, BCG, or those are the big guys. I don't think we have money for that. So based on my experience, most of the local accounting firm, they would be able to do basic legal work, like setting up your company, provide you some basic consulting. But when you get into more complicated deal, of course, you have to go to the right legal firm. But as local companies like RSM or several local companies, they can set up your company with a cost around $2,500, around $3,000 compared to international law firm to charge you several rates, $20,000, $30,000. It isn't worth. It's the same job anyway. So reasonable fee, fast process, having the same reliability. And my advice to you would be, the last one would be setting up your company properly. I saw some of the friends, they just bring a passport, they set up a company like a local company, but later on you will have a lot of problem operating the company. So my advice would be to engage the legal firm or accounting firm to set up your company as the investor, the international investor company. There's two different companies, one for local, one for international. And that has to register, and then you register your capital account. So later on, when you make money, you can send back the company. And then if you make any intercompany loan, all of that has to be registered with the state bank. And you need to engage a good accounting firm to handle all of that for you. Again, you don't need to engage expensive international one. I've been through that. I pay a lot, but do the same thing even worse because you get very junior people to do the job. And my last advice would be setting up your company when you have your company in Singapore or Hong Kong, you make it become a profit center and Vietnam become a cost center. You just have your dev team here, your sales team here. You send the money over every month to pay for expenses, but on profit, on revenue has to channel to Singapore. Why? Because the tax in Vietnam is quite complicated and it's 27%. And it's not easy to deduct for cost. If you go out, have lunch, you need to get red invoice. In Singapore, you don't need to have that. Just get any receipt and it would be used as expenses. So right now I'm having my company in Singapore and Hong Kong, and that's the structure I do, and it worked for me, and I believe it would work for you as well. So thank you. Those are the takeaway point into my perspective as an investor. And if you have any questions, you can reach out to me. I can make you, some introduction to contact in the industry. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chen. It's a great presentation. Thank you so much for our three speakers. I think it's time that we can delve in some of the Q&A section. We've got about 20 minutes left for the webinar. So if anyone to ask our speakers some of the questions, or else I could open up with some of the questions that I believe would be beneficial for the international startup looking to expand to Vietnam. I think I just want to, from the presentation of all our three speakers, I think the key takeaway would be For any international startup that would looking to expand to Vietnam, the key would be to find the local partner to establish the relationship with that local partner, either accelerator like WISE from Ms. Hiệp, or either working with a program like Swiss EP program, or either setting up or working with a local partner like Mr. Ansher over here. So the key would be finding the local partner, establish the relationship with that local partner in order to expand the business. So okay, so I would like to see if Michelle is still here. Hi, Michelle.
Hi, still here.
I know that a lot of startup from your portfolio is looking to expand to Vietnam, and all of our speakers over here have a lot of experience in engaging the international startup to Vietnam. I'm sure you would have some questions for our speakers.
Sure. I think like for Quest Ventures ourselves, our portfolio companies and startups under our Vietnam Global Innovation Program, they are looking to enter into Vietnam, and they also spend some time understanding the market and also finding partners, local partners, for them to do their pilots. I think all this while it's true, like some of the introductions of our own network and also them doing business development, market development by themselves. But maybe you have some best practices that you can share with regards to like international companies coming in and they want to like do a few pilots to have some quick wins before scaling up in Vietnam. Like maybe like one of the speakers or all the speakers can address that.
Yes, I think it's a great question. Have you got any like case of international startup trying to do a pilot over here?
Hi Michelle. It's a very interesting question. A few staff approached me to ask for that, and my advice would be I would not suggest you to set up a local company because it takes time, costs money, and if you close that, it takes time and costs money as well. Because stuff is very unstable and you don't know the chance of success. So my suggestion would be you talk to a local partner, through accelerator, incubators, or somebody who would have the capability to help you to roll out, sign up a contract with them, let you do a pilot project. They will charge you a certain fee. Just think of that as a marketing fee. Let them set it up, and you have some kind of agreement for them to roll out. But to make it clear for them not to have too much expectation that you may do with them later on. If the project becomes successful, if it's much to do with them, you do with them, otherwise you do it by yourself. But I would suggest that at the beginning, you should engage a local partner, make them just like independent, pay them a fee, let them do it. They take care of all the costs, all the local documentation, the regulations, and let them do it. And later on, when you see the result and you see from the bottom line, then you decide if you go with them or you set it up by yourself. Like us, when I have the company in Singapore, I do international trading. We move several million of dollars a year. And for some of the new market, that's how we do. We just sign up an agent, we call them an agent, make them become a partner. We pay them a fee, let them do it. And later on, if things work, we would set up our account ourselves. Otherwise, just based on that model. And have a profit sharings, and that's how it works. So everybody pay their own costs, and we have some sharing on the profit of that market.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, just want to add a little bit on that. I think that if an international startup wants to expand to Vietnam and to pilot the market, the local market here, it's important you talk to as many local partners as possible in here. At least at first you will realize that if there is any similar ideas of a local startup are already in existence, will it be a competition or will it be opportunities for collaboration, for expanded impacts? So this kind of global talk that IBP is organizing is a great way to understand the key players in the country. So when you have a startup who wants to expand to Vietnam, you can identify who will be the good focal point, just to talk to them, to share the ideas and to ask for introduction, ask for connection, ask for the the kind of the market trends and what's already in here. So just don't come abruptly without any any research in the country. So through this, you can actually note down who will be the right entry point or the right context for you when you want to learn more about the market. Because you know that in Vietnam, the startup scene is also very dynamic. A lot of ideas are happening every day. A lot of Vietnamese startups are also trying to test new ideas. So you may want to work with them to expand the team, or you want to use them as like a check partner, just like the previous speaker has just mentioned. You can really collaborate and reduce your costs for market entry first. So just connection, and keep talking to people as much as possible before you really come to another country.
Thank you. I think a lot of questions over here, and I want to build up on what you've shared as well. I mean, it seems like finding the local partner is so important. Either it's an organization, or either it's an individual, or either it's a startup that the international founders could be potentially collaborating with. So, I'm curious as well. I mean, in your opinion, what are the three most important criteria in finding the right local partner? So I would like to hear the opinions of all three of you, actually.
I'll always try, and you can correct me.
Yeah, for sure, yeah.
One, they speak Vietnamese, and so, and I don't say that as a joke, and Gideon Sun's, I think, maybe in the first point he had, the cultural bit, and so you need a partner who's in the market, who's connected. I think the partner needs to have a good understanding of the regulatory part of things, more than just simply how you register your business. So that is going to be a critical aspect. And I think ideally a partner who's had experience already with international companies coming in. And so not only do you learn about Vietnam cultural aspect from them, but they're also comfortable with this international cultural piece. So it's a two-way thing. And so that's an important thing. I think I've seen miscommunication on the cultural side. And that's just one barrier that you don't want to have to deal with.
So adding to Mr. Lang's, I think it's a very tough question, because when you go into a new country, as you go into cold water, you don't know anybody. Okay? And how do you judge if a local partner is the right partner? Okay? Of course, it's your time, you meet them. In my criteria, as is in the first meeting, if they come in the meeting 15 minutes later, say this guy is not reliable. It's as simple as that. But of course, integrity is the number one, right? But integrity, talking of integrity, you only know if they're integrity after you do business with them. So my advice would be make a lot of relationship, friends, and then you check background, cross-check. That's how we do as well. I check if that person know that person, how they did in the past. I think the community is quite small. When you talk about stuff, right? Anybody would know anybody. You just double check, cross-check, and to see his house, and if they could speak good about that person, then you feel comfortable. Otherwise, you have to try and error. That's the beauty of life in business. But we experience that as well, right? But we try to avoid that, but it's quite hard. It's quite tough. That's I think to Mr. Lang.
Ms. Hiền, you have?
Yes, it will be pretty difficult to think of three criteria right away. But what I would suggest is that really identify just like in your investment raising pitch, you really need to put down in your pitch before you reach out or cold email to someone, or even someone but just likely, what would benefit both you and them at first. So you will look for someone that will also benefit from that collaboration, from that connection, someone that they are also into. So for example, if you reach out to WISE and say that, I am a startup in Singapore and I want to go to Vietnam and I want to know if in this edutech area, if there's any similar startup that I can work with, it will benefit me to introduce you to a woman-led startup in Vietnam. So this is like my benefit. If you say that you're just interested in a men only team, okay, it's not my area. I mean, sorry, I'm not interested because this is not my space. So be very clear about what would be there for you and for them, especially for them when you reach out to them. That's the first thing. The second thing, that be very clear about your process. I mean, basically, if you must have a very clear goal to come to Vietnam, whether this is to expand the market, to pilot the market, to find to establish a branch or to find an investment in Vietnam, etc. So be clear about your goal and break down into different steps. So from that, like if you're looking for investment, you would have to reach out to investment group, like to the angel group that I'm having or other angel groups in Vietnam. So it will be very clear to know who will be the person or the organization you want to go to. Be clear about that. But if you don't know where to start and you just know just one person in Vietnam, okay, you can start from that person and be clear that I'm looking for investment in Vietnam. Who should I meet? I'm looking for a group of startups working in education tech. You know, who should I reach out to? So just very simple question and make it feasible or doable to the person you ask or request for support, so they know where to, you know, how to support you. Otherwise, you just say that I want to start in Vietnam, I don't know where to start. That will be difficult for them as well. So be very specific in your request and be very clear about your objectives. So that helps the organization or the person in Vietnam to help you as well. So, you know, maybe not the real criteria, but maybe just more of the way to reach out. I am very interested in the earlier presentation about the different in country in the north and the south, and totally agree with Hub as well about the local language and understand the local culture, because sometimes it may be turned down if you reach out to a northern person and they say no to a complete stranger. But you know, don't be down immediately, because there are other ways to reach out to them. But that's very interesting insight that that is useful for people to come to Vietnam to learn about.
And just an addition, I mean, Miss Hien is actually from Hanoi, but she's not, you know, typical the northern person that Mr. Ashton has described.
My presentations.
Yeah, now it's more like international. When we're working in this space, it's more like international culture that have been imported to us. So we are not a very typical northern or southern only people. Yeah.
Just a little bit to share. I mean, Michelle from Quest Ventures. So a lot of startups in Quest Ventures portfolio are actively looking for local partners in Vietnam. And you know, when looking through the list of the startups, I've seen some of the startups have a solution for government. So it's quite a hard sector. Mr. Shell has shared a little bit about how to crack into the B2G sector for international startup. I know the fact that he is currently reviewing a startup in the sector. So can I ask if you could share with us, you know, some of the insights, maybe very short, of some of the tips or some of the lessons, key lessons that international startups should be aware of when going into the B2G sector?
Yeah, thank you, Ms. Anh. Based on my experience, more on the trading and buy and sales, right? But as I mentioned earlier, it's very important for you to write a key decision maker. And most of the time, the chairman is not the decision maker. So, you know, I know in Korea, the chairman is the ultimate decision maker. But for government company, he's not the decision maker. He's the group decision maker, making process. And normally his position, whoever the decision maker, his position for only for 4 years maximum. So you don't want to spend too much time and effort in that manner, you know, because you have to be ready for it. And maybe in 2 years, he's changed already. And if you want to sell something to them, I think the best way would be go to an existing local partners already have relationship with them, because they have relationship with each other, they feel comfortable with each other, and they would drop elbow with each other. And those are the partner you would need to tap into to make the fastest way to get into the system. It's going to take you a lot of time to get into them, because for government companies, even worse. You have to make them feel very comfortable of yourself, and that is not going through 1, 2, 3 meetings. It's a time-taking process, and you need to have a local guy, speak local language, go out. Maybe drinking is still a habit here. But I'm not a drinker. I hate drinking. Well, sometimes I have to do that. I think these things you know exactly. Is in Hanoi is even worse, right? In Hanoi, is drinking would happen in afternoon. Right? Yeah. Well, that would be my point sharing to you. But of course, it depends on your industry. If your industry doesn't relate to selling to a government company, more on tapping to the government database, then it's a different way of approach. And then you have to know where the database is centralized from. If you go to the hospital, maybe they don't share you, but if you go to Ministry of Health, they would have the data and share with you. So you have to know where the resource you need. And of course, as I mentioned, you need to have a very good local advisor. If you want to tap into that industry, get a local advisor, especially if he's from the government sector, retired government sector, deputy minister, or head of a department. This would be a very valuable asset to the international staff. Yeah. Thank you. Yeah, that's
yeah. Thank you, Mr. Angson. I have one more question for Mr. Landstaff, and the one that you shared about the Entrepreneurs in Residence program, where Swiss EP would bring the international experts into Vietnam. And recently, we talk a lot about international startups should have a local partner. But I also wonder, if I want to go into a country, I would want to go there personally as well at first, in order to learn as much as possible about that country and the local culture. So do you think there will be any opportunity to bringing the international startup founders as part of the Entrepreneur in Residence program?
Oh, absolutely. And so ideally experienced founders who may be in their second or third company. And so we have our 15 partners. And so we have a small stipend that we help bring people in. But I'm going to go out on a limb a little bit and say pretty much any acceleration incubation program in Vietnam or other countries would love to have somebody like that come in and help inside their accelerator or incubator. And so you don't need to have this formal sponsorship from a group like Swiss EP, but you can. And so we have the advantage of having these relationships. We can introduce you already. However, if you're a Quest portfolio company, I'm sure they have connections inside Vietnam that they could get you to some of the top accelerator programs. And so it is a nice way of having immediate connections, gives you a base to work from. And so, it depends on what type of company you have. There's a lot of programs in sort of the Saigon area, different type companies in Hanoi. But it's a great way of getting a quick feel for the market, the players in the market. And then when you do get here, you find out it's a pretty small group. And we kind of all know each other and make introductions.
Yeah. Thank you, Mr. Lester. Maybe we could, have further discussion in how to bring some of the very experienced founders from abroad to Vietnam as part of the Entrepreneur in Residence. I mean, and that would be beneficial for the local Vietnamese startups as well. I think you share with us a lot about some of the communities, some of the channels in Vietnam for international startups to reach out to. These are very key names. I mean, regarding media, you should reach out to like Satura Media, should reach out to, regarding some of the accelerator program, BSSC do have international exposure, Visa also do have international exposure. But what if, the international startup would like to find a local manager or COO or CEO for their business? I mean, is there any kind of community network channel that I may reach out to? Because a lot of startups do come to us and say, help us to build our local team, and we struggle as well. So
hi, Tubu, thank you for your questions. Thanks to everyone. Yes, the question going to be, can you please suggest some reputable local entrepreneur community in Ho Chi Minh City, being a potential co-founder CEO? I think, talking of headhunting is a very difficult job, right? It's very hard to find. Yeah. It's just like you get married. It's very hard to find a life partner, co-founder. So, local community in Ho Chi Minh City, I noticed there's a group in Vietnamese called Quảng Trị and Khởi nghiệp, Lam Minh Chan. I think he trained a lot of startups. And I think Ang and Ang Noting, right? That would make introduction. He had that community, and I saw on Facebook there's some community there. Sometimes I think launch or something. I forgot the name of that community, but it's on Facebook. And sometimes I see startup people would go there and look for a co-founder. But again, I think it's not an easy job for any organization to find a CEO or representative or founder. Of course, you can engage in headhunting company and through local network, talking to different kind of organization, like Mr. Lang, I myself, Miss Ang, or Mr. Anybody, right? You build a contact and ask them if you know somebody to introduce to you. If you see somebody who would be suitable to you, personality, we would make a recommendation. But again, you have to be the one to make a decision, and it's not an easy job. I don't know if that would answer your question.
So we would refer you to people like Anne, who's been a successful founder of a company, our friend. You know, unfortunately, now there are a number of, I would say, successful founders who have exited their company and are looking for their next adventure. And so there's more people to choose from now than there were 5 years ago.
I think that's very interesting insights. I mean, there's more, the talent pool in Vietnam has grown, yeah, a lot more. And a lot of, you know, these talents, I mean, these people from this pool can speak English at least, so it will be easier to communicate with the international startups. So I think if no one has any more questions, I would like to wrap up our webinar for today. I mean, thank you so much for the 1 hour of insights. I mean, we would, I think after all of this, from our side, we would build up the resources, like a resource pool for the international startups, with all of your sharing, you know, with all of some of the key names and players, and that we could share to any international startup, either from the portfolio of Quest Ventures or from the Startup International track that would like to expand to Vietnam. And if you're okay, we could put you know, your contact and share your details with the international startup as well. And I hope that, you know, from all of these activities that we're doing, we could somehow create a much stronger ecosystem here in Vietnam, connected with the world. Thank you so much, all of our speakers. Thank you so much, Michelle, for co-hosting with us. This is the third time we're doing it together, and the series continues to go on. Yeah.
Thank you, Michelle. Thank you, Miss Hing. Thank you, everybody.
Thanks, Anne, for hosting.
Thank you, Anne. Thank you, everyone, for hosting this.